Emma stood at the stove, her hands moving in a fluid, practiced motion as she tossed vegetables in a sizzling pan. The smells of garlic and herbs filled the air, and for a moment she forgot where she was. The tiny kitchen in her one-bedroom apartment was her sanctuary, the place where she experimented and practiced the skills she was learning in cooking school. Her dream was to become a renowned chef, someone who created dishes that people would remember forever. At 23, Emma had already accomplished more than most her age. She was enrolled in one of the best culinary schools in the city, and every weekend, she worked at a small bistro to gain real-world experience. But it wasn't enough for her. She wanted to push her limits, to work at a place where culinary mastery was not just a goal, but a requirement. She had her eyes set on something bigger, a job at a Michelin-starred restaurant. For weeks, she researched the best restaurants in the city. Finally, she settled on one, the prestigious Le Jardin Étoilé, known not just for its food, but for its rigorous kitchen standards. Getting in would be a challenge, but Emma was determined. She had always been determined. When the day came to submit her application, she walked into the restaurant with her resume clutched in her hand. Her nerves were a whirlwind of excitement and anxiety. The maitre d' greeted her with a polite but skeptical look, taking in her blonde hair tied neatly in a bun and her casual, student-like appearance. "You're here to apply?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "I'm a culinary student and I've been working at a bistro for almost 2 years. I'm ready for the next step." He studied her for a moment, then took her resume. "Our head chef will review this. If you're accepted, we'll call you." For days, Emma checked her phone obsessively, waiting for a response. She doubted herself, thinking of all the experienced chefs who must have applied. Could they really pick her? When her phone finally rang, her heart stopped. The restaurant wanted to meet her for an interview. The day of the interview, she wore her best outfit, tamed her long blonde hair into a tight bun, and walked into the restaurant with her head held high. The head chef, a stern-looking woman with sharp eyes, asked her countless questions about her culinary background, her skills, and her dreams. "So, why do you want to work here?" the chef asked, folding her hands and leaning forward across the table. Emma took a deep breath. "Because this restaurant represents the pinnacle of what I want to achieve. I want to be challenged, to learn from the best. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to work hard." The chef's eyes softened for a brief moment before she nodded. "We'll start you at the bottom, like everyone else. If you can handle it, you might earn a place in the kitchen." And so, Emma began her journey at Le Jardin Étoilé, not as a chef, not even as a line cook, but as a dishwasher. The work was grueling, far more exhausting than she had imagined. For hours, she stood over the sinks, scrubbing pots and pans, her arms aching from the constant motion. But she didn't complain. This was her foot in the door, and she was determined to make the most of it. Her shifts started early and ended late. She came in before dawn to prep the kitchen, washing and organizing tools and utensils. Despite the harsh environment, Emma thrived. She kept her focus on the end goal, the chance to cook in the famed kitchen. During her breaks, she watched the chefs with envy, her eyes following every movement, every flick of a knife, and every dash of seasoning. Weeks turned into months, and the chefs began to take notice of her diligence. Emma wasn't just washing dishes. She was absorbing the energy of the kitchen, memorizing techniques, and mentally preparing herself for the moment when she might be called upon to step up. Finally, after 6 months of relentless work, the head chef approached her during a quiet moment. "You've been doing well," she said, crossing her arms. "You've got grit. How would you like to assist in the kitchen?" Emma's heart leapt in her chest. "Yes, absolutely," she said, trying to contain her excitement. "Good," the chef nodded. "But remember, this is just the beginning. Prove to me you can handle it." Emma threw herself into her new role with everything she had. She prepped ingredients, observed the sous-chefs, and followed instructions with military precision. Her long blonde hair was always tied up neatly under a hairnet, but it was still a source of pride for her, a reflection of her hard work and dedication to maintaining a professional appearance. But as time went on, The head chef grew stricter with her. One day, after service, the chef called her into the office. "Emma, you're doing a good job, but there's an issue we need to address," the chef began, her tone measured. Emma felt her stomach twist. "What's wrong?" "It's your hair," the chef stated bluntly. "Long hair is a potential hazard in the kitchen, even when tied up. We run a strict operation here, and I can't afford any distractions or risks. I'm giving you a choice." Emma's heart sank as she listened, sensing the gravity of the words that would follow. "You can either return to dishwashing," the chef continued, "or you can shave your head. It's your decision, but I need you to understand that safety and hygiene are non-negotiable here." Emma felt as if the air had been knocked out of her lungs. Shave her head? Her long, beautiful blonde hair that she had always cherished? She had worked so hard to get where she was, and now this? Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she held them back. "Can't I just keep it tied up?" she pleaded, though she knew the answer. The chef shook her head. "No exceptions. This is the price of working here. Think it over, but I'll need your decision by tomorrow." Emma spent a sleepless night wrestling with her thoughts. The idea of losing her hair felt like losing a part of herself. Yet, the idea of giving up on her dream was even more unbearable. She wanted to become a chef more than anything. If this was what it took, then so be it. The next morning, she walked into the chef's office, her face pale but her eyes resolute. "I'll do it," she said, her voice shaking. "I'll shave my head." The chef nodded, showing no emotion. "Good. We'll do it now. It's best to get it over with." She goes to a barbershop to shave her head. She is given a cape with a neck strip around her. There is no time to doubt. As the clippers buzzed to life, tears streamed down her face. She tried to stay strong, to remind herself why she was doing this, but the sound of the clippers approaching her head made it impossible. When she felt the first pass of the clippers at the base of her neck, she broke down, sobbing openly as chunks of her golden hair fell to the floor. The process felt like it lasted an eternity. The buzzing filled her ears. By the time they finished, her scalp was completely bare, exposed to the cool air of the room. Emma wiped her tears away with the back of her hand, refusing to look in the mirror that someone held out for her. Finally, the razor comes out with the shaving cream to go completely bald. "It's done," the chef said gently, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. "From now on, you're one of us. Go clean up and then meet me at your station. We have work to do." With shaky legs, Emma stood and walked to the bathroom. She forced herself to look in the mirror. The person staring back at her was someone she didn't recognize. Bald, tear-streaked, and vulnerable. But somewhere in that reflection, she also saw a fighter. She had made a sacrifice for her dream, and now there was no turning back. She took a deep breath, washed her face, and returned to the kitchen. The staff nodded at her respectfully as she took her place beside the head chef. She felt their silent acknowledgement. She had paid her dues. From that day on, Emma worked with a new intensity. She was no longer the girl with the beautiful blonde hair. She was now a chef in training, dedicated to her craft. She threw herself into every task, from slicing vegetables with surgical precision to plating dishes that looked like pieces of art. The head chef began to trust her more, giving her responsibilities that made her heart race with excitement and fear. Emma was finally where she had always dreamed of being, at the heart of a Michelin-starred kitchen, creating exquisite dishes that people would savor. Despite the loss of her hair, Emma discovered something unexpected: freedom. She no longer had to worry about her appearance, and it allowed her to focus entirely on her passion for cooking. With every new dish she created, every service she survived, she felt her confidence grow. She wasn't just working in the kitchen. She was becoming a part of it. Months passed, and soon Emma's reputation in the restaurant soared. Patrons began to ask, "Who made this dish?" And it was her name that the maître d' proudly announced. She had become an integral part of Le Jardin Étoilé, not just as a chef, but as an artist of flavors. Emma learned that sacrifices were part of chasing dreams. Losing her hair had been a painful price to pay, but it was a small one compared to what she gained. A place in the world of haute cuisine, where only the boldest could thrive. And in time, as her hair began to grow back, she looked in the mirror and saw not just a girl with a buzzed scalp, but a chef who had earned her place through sweat, tears, and the courage to choose her dream over vanity. The cost had been high, but as she stood in the bustling kitchen of Le Jardin Étoilé, surrounded by the sizzle of pans and the aroma of fine ingredients, she knew it had been worth every tear. If you'd like, I can continue this story to flesh out more details, character interactions, or expand on her journey. Let me know how you'd like to proceed.